What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. It's actually the same day as yesterday's video where we were pruning up our tomatoes, but I had to come out here. I had to prune up my peaches because that's something on the to-do list. So don't mind the sweat, man. I'll tell you what, it is a humid day here in Michigan. We're talking 90% humidity and 85 degrees. It is muggy. And so it's gonna be a quick one, but I gotta get this done. So I wanted to bring you all along because that's what I like to do. So we're gonna be pruning up our peach tree. And you probably are wondering yourself, Luke, why on earth are you pruning your peach tree? It looks super beautiful. Well, you can actually have a peach tree that looks too beautiful. Peaches are notorious for producing a ton of different crazy side shoots because they're very fast growers. And then the problem is that side growth and all those other shoots are 1-year-old growth, and anyone that knows about peaches knows that they fruit on 1-year-old growth. That means that any new growth this year will fruit next year. And the problem is that there's a lot of craziness going on that is going to fruit next year where fruit really shouldn't be. There's not a good firm branch to sustain that fruit, meaning it's either going to bend and break or it's going to overfruit, meaning it's going to stress the tree. And that's something that I really was quite unaware of when I first started planting these. I had a lot of friends that have orchards and have grown a lot of peaches, but they never mentioned to me that I should be doing something called summer pruning. And essentially summer pruning is pruning out all of the undesired side growth that happens during the main growing season. This also is very important because you don't want to prune the main structure of the peach tree unless you really need to, unless it's really grown out of shape and it's become mangled. Over time, the peach tree will kind of form a natural canopy. They're not large trees that'll get 40 feet tall like a pear or an apple where you have to top them. They'll naturally form a topping point at right around 10 to 15 feet tall. So there's not a problem necessarily with the shape of the tree, but more or less within the canopy itself, it will actually form a lot of upward side growth, a lot of wild growth. And that's just not good because it doesn't allow good airflow to come in through the tree, but it also encourages too much fruiting that leads to broken branches. It leads to pests coming in because they can sense that the tree is stressed, and then they come in and hone in like the oriental fruit moth did this year. They hone in on that ripening fruit and they just plague you. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the fruit next year is just proportionate to the size of tree that it is. So right here there's a lateral branch growing out, and what we want to do is we want to encourage branches to come straight out and not straight up. See, these branches here, they're growing straight up, and that's going to grow into the branches above that are also growing laterally. So what we want to do is we just want to come in and prune those out there. Those are very important because they just restrict airflow. They don't really do anything for us. And what we want to do is we want to clean this interior up because that's where a lot of the disease starts happening. So let's prune these up here. And you can see there's not too many, but it's very important to clean those up so that we have, like I said, really good lateral growth and no upward growth. So, and then obviously the branch begins curling. You can see over here, the branch begins curling upwards towards the light because it begins to exceed the canopy above. So you can see, because the canopy is over here, the tree will naturally begin bending towards the light as it gets out of that light. And that's what creates a really good, strong understory down here, is that down here, all these leaves, they actually are bending outwards to reach new light, and those are all going to grow fruit next year, which is going to be a real good producer without having too much constriction. So let's move on to another part of the tree. The next thing I want to do is I want to prune the end of this branch here because it's growing a little bit too low to the ground. I don't want anything that's going to touch the ground if it gets laden with fruit, because that just invites ants up. It invites different insects as well as disease, because a lot of your disease is on the ground. So now that we got that pruned up, this branch is really going to be encouraged to grow upwards and use this growth to become the next primary growth point. I'm going to prune that up a little bit more there. There, okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to look at our canopy levels. So we have a first canopy here. Well, this is all the canopy, but there's canopy layers, and that air layering allows for fruit to ripen within those layers here. And so we have our first canopy layer here. We have our next canopy layer up here. And so I want to prune that because eventually there's going to be a third canopy layer. So I'll show you that because we always choose one main growth point to come out and grow outwards laterally. And that's going to create those layers. And so we want to make sure that we take care of not only this canopy layer growing into this one, but anticipate a third one in the future, which is already forming, so that we can have good layering and good fruit production throughout those layers. So let's go check out the top of this. All right, so we're looking for where that third canopy is kind of going to come in. And this growth tip right here, as you can see, this growth tip here is a very strong main growth tip coming off the main branch, and it is starting to grow upwards as well as grow outwards. And what I want to do is I want to stop that upward growth temporarily because this is going to be our third canopy layer here. I want to stop that growth there and encourage that lateral growth outwards. So we're going to come in here, we're just going to top that off there and top that off there. And what that's going to do is it's going to create that third canopy layer that is then going to come in here, and all this stuff here is going to be that second layer, and this right here is going to form that third layer, which is going to grow up and out. And so it's just important to always kind of plan for that, because you can't, they always say hindsight is 20/20. You know, you can't just have it happen naturally, otherwise the plant will just become crazy. You actually have to prune your plant to decide where it's going to put new growth, where you're going to stop its old growth, and really kind of shape the tree so that it can host the most amount of fruit and still be the healthiest tree. And so that's really all that there is to this tree. There's a little bit more interior pruning that I could do, but you know, I'm going to pretty much just, well, there's another one here I'm going to prune up inside the tree. Just want to take out all those crossing branches that are going to really restrict that airflow, and that looks pretty good there. So I'm very happy with that. I'm not going to prune much more because I don't want to stress the tree out, especially with it being so hot. That's something to consider, is, you know what the limits of what you're pruning. I typically say don't prune any more than about 15 to 20% if it's real hot like this. But the benefit to pruning when it's hot is that when you prune in the summer, the midsummer, that's why they call it summer pruning, it actually will reduce the amount of disease that the tree risks getting. A very big problem that we get with peaches is those little red bumps on your leaves. And those red bumps is actually a fungus. We've done a video on it. I'll post a link to it right over there. I'd recommend checking it out. And that fungus spreads and lives in the bark of damaged tissue. And when you're cutting stuff, you're damaging the tissue. And if it's cold and damp, that fungus actually thrives and lives in those conditions. So when it's hot out, you're not going to have those problems. So the plant can heal, that damaged tissue can heal up before that cold, damp weather comes. And so that's the benefit of pruning in the summer. And also during the summer, you're getting all that wild growth that you wouldn't have during the colder seasons, when the plant is really either focusing on going dormant or just coming out of dormancy. Right now is the growing season, so anytime it gets spare energy, it puts out a side shoot somewhere, and then it just becomes a tangled up mess. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. Get out there and prune your fruit trees. This also applies to plums, nectarines, and things like that. Ant crawling on my arm there. So make sure to go prune those. Any stone fruit, really, get out and get them pruned up, because you'll really benefit the next year. So as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. We'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye.